Buddy, good morning. I am live here on Vimeo, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and I believe LinkedIn. We are working on Start Your School Year Off with Success for this Saturday webinar. I'm really excited to be here with you. Some of you are already in the chat telling me who you are, where you teach. We have elementary special education grade 1 through 6 in New York. We have grade 4 New Mexico, Sarah. We've got people grade 7 through 12, special education teacher. If you are joining me live on TikTok, we are working on how to start your school year off with success. And we will be working today on classroom management, instructional planning, effective instruction, and time management. So I'm not going to share my screen a lot with you guys today, except to show you some resources. This is more just going to be a talking webinar. Usually when I do webinars, we're going through test prep. So I'm sharing, items and how to answer the questions and things like that. Today is more of a strategy session on how to start your school year off with success and how to implement strategies now that are going to help you have a better first year, second year, third year of teaching. So if you guys are all new, let me know in the chat. Some of you might be second year teachers, things like that. We have people from New Jersey. We are all over New Jersey. I have tons of clients from New Jersey, Minnesota, Nevada, Maryland, Cape Coral, Florida. I am in Florida as well. Oklahoma. We have people from all over the country, you guys. I'm so excited about this. And I am on TikTok as well. I don't normally do lives on TikTok, but I do them here. And I thought, well, let me just throw my camera up and go live on TikTok as well. So my name is Kathleen Jasper. I am an educator. I own KathleenJasper.com, and I help teachers and prospective leaders, those of you who are trying to get your certification in leadership, pass your certification exams and get jobs that you want in education. But I also help coach teachers on how to have just better strategies in the classroom, better classroom management. These struggles we have all had as teachers. I usually do a free webinar at the beginning of the year or at the end of the summer to help you start thinking about how you are going to make your classroom work. Obviously, we have different content areas and different grade levels, but everything I'm going to talk to you about today can be applied to any classroom. I also know that we have special education teachers in the chat and here. And, some special education teachers are in unique situations where you might have very severe behavior issues. And so your strategies are going to be much more robust. But today we're going to be talking about basic classroom management that can be applied everywhere, instructional planning, and effective instruction. And then I'm going to give you a few tips about your teacher contract and some other things that you might want to know. So we've got people on TikTok here. Tennessee, still in school to teach K through 5. Awesome. That's great. Anybody's welcome here, even if you are just thinking about teaching. So again, my name is Kathleen Jasper. I've been doing this for about 10 years, but before I owned my own company, I was a teacher. I started off as a substitute teacher. A lot of what I'm going to tell you today about classroom management has to do with my very first class that I had to come in as a permanent substitute after they had had a series of like 7 different substitutes. This class was hanging from the rafters. They were, 16, 17-year-old kids. I taught high school. I was only probably 24, 25 at the time. I had to corral them and get them to do what I said. And I actually was able to do that. It became one of my best classes. I learned so much from those kids and love them to death to this day because they helped make me a teacher. And then I went on to be a fully certified teacher. Then I became a curriculum master teacher downtown where I wrote curriculum and tests for the district, which is where I got a lot of my training to do what I do here today. Then I became an assistant principal, a leadership position at the district. And then I left to start my own company and have a go at it on my own. So those are my credentials. Just so you know, I'm qualified to help you with this. You may agree with some of the things I say. You may not. It's all good. Take the strategies you like and use those. And the ones you think are dumb, you don't have to use them, just like anything else. And I want you to know that I care a lot about teachers. I care so much about education and students. And so I'm so glad you guys are here to join me on this. So it's the end of the summer. And, we're starting to get the flutters like, oh my God, I got to go back to school. And even if you are a 20-year veteran, going back to school is like the Sunday scaries on steroids. You're like, what am I going to do? Some of you haven't even gotten your roster yet. Some of you might not even know what you're teaching yet. I know that, a lot of people and a lot of principals, they haven't finalized schedules yet. Why? Well, because there's a teacher shortage in most states and they are trying to fill positions and put people where they need to be. So I know it might be frustrating that you may not have all the answers yet to what you're asking, like, what am I teaching? Where's my kids? What's my roster? So you can get organized. The school is trying the best they can to make that happen. So I just want because I've been on both sides. I've been a teacher and I've been an AP at the high school level, and it's just placing people in positions can change on a dime. So just be flexible, but also be ready. And that's what I'm going to help you to do today. So I'm going to talk primarily from my book. This book is called Teach, a Survival Guide for New Educators. I'm going to cover a lot of like the basic concepts in the book, but there's more here. This book has been really great. I was worried about writing it because I usually write test prep study guides, which are more technical documents. This is more of like a personal experience and then sharing with you kind of how to, structure your classroom based on my own experience. And the response has been really great. I don't know if you guys have gotten my book. Let me know in the chat or online if you've gotten the book and like it. The reviews have been so great. And I also noticed that people buy this book along with the book, The First Days of School, which is one of my very favorite first-time educator books. It's called The First Days of School. And it's by an author called Harry Wong. I know. But it is one of the best books that I've ever read for classroom management. It's geared more towards elementary, but the classroom management strategies are stellar. And that's where I got my solutions to my problem. And then I kind of tweaked them a little bit and put them in my book here. So this is a great book to get with the other book, The First Days of School. This is a great quick read. And it's got a lot of funny stories in it about my epic failures as a teacher, because that's what life is, and how to overcome that. All right. So I'm so glad. Oh, Anna's got it. Graciella's got it. Allie's got it. Thank you so much, you guys, for supporting me and buying the book. That's wonderful. All right. Let's go over a few things that I think you should focus on, be thinking about right now. So we're coming to the end of July. School is right around the corner. The first thing I would be thinking about, whether you're a first-year teacher or a third-year teacher, I know some veterans, you have your way of doing things, which is totally fine, but you may want to tweak it. The first thing I would do is focus on classroom management. I know a lot of you are thinking about, well, what am I going to teach? I need my teacher edition textbook. How am I going to structure my classroom? I need to set up my classroom. All of those things are very, very important things. However, without classroom management, you are not going to have a good year. You just are not. And if you try to run the show without a well-managed classroom, you are going to fail because the kids are going to eat you alive and you are going to really despise teaching. When you feel overrun by student behaviors and things like that, it can be really difficult. And let me just tell you a couple of things before we get into this. Students are people. And without explicit instruction and practice routines and procedures, they're just going to act like normal people do. Think about it. Think about your faculty meeting. If there are not explicit instructions on the projected board or whatever, what do teachers do? They come in, they sit down, they talk to their teacher bestie, right? They take out their phone, they drink their Starbucks coffee. They're doing what human beings do when they don't know what the expectation is. I have led plenty of professional development for teachers. And if I don't have my procedures and routines explicitly stated and we don't have them worked out, the teachers are going to act like humans as well. Go into a faculty. They're on their phones. They're chewing gum. Some are having a full-blown meal right in the thing. Some of them will grade papers while the principal is speaking or while the assistant principal is speaking. All of it is human behavior. Some of it can be very disrespectful, but remember, students are people. So if they don't know the expectation and if you don't give them a chance to understand the expectation and the procedures, they're going to do what any human would do. Now, conversely, I have led professional development where teachers walk in, they know exactly what to do. They see something projected on the board. They go, oh, I have to do that. Okay, grab my paper, go sit down, blah, blah, blah. They know exactly what to do. And they do it. And the same will go for students. When we have practice routines and procedures, they will meet your expectations. Now, the key that I just said was practiced routines and procedures. It is not enough to put it on the board and write it on the board and say, okay, this is what I expect. Okay, we good? And then think it's common sense that they're going to follow it. That's not how it works. So a couple of tips I want to give you on classroom management. And of course, I have more in-depth conversation about this in the book. And I'm going to show you some online resources that I have as well that will work through this specifically. But I want you to think about all the routines that you're going to need for your classroom. Now, this is not going to be an exhaustive list because once you get into the teaching part, you're going to find there's going to be areas in your room or in your classroom instruction where you need additional procedures. Okay. So let's talk about elementary education really quick. We have a lot of second grade teachers in here. We have a lot of people who are, maybe early education to upper level elementary. So K-6 or even pre-K 6. Okay. Your procedures are going to be a lot more abundant, right? You're going to need procedures for them coming into the room, putting their backpacks away, putting their lunches away, whatever routines you have. Kindergarten teachers, you guys have a lot going on. Every time I observe a kindergarten teacher, I'm in total awe. It's like the procedures you have to put in place because the kids touch everything, they grab everything, they're antsy, they're children, and so you have to put all these barriers in place to protect them from themselves, basically. And I'm always in awe of kindergarten teachers. So you're going to have entering the room, putting backpacks down, lunches, lining up at the door, walking to the lunchroom, walking to specials. All of that needs to be kind of mapped out in your head or on paper, what you want to do. Then you're going to have procedures for transitions from English language arts block to math block, right? To science block, to social studies block. You're going to have procedures for putting your math books away and putting your homework away or turning in homework and things like that. So I would recommend that you kind of map out a general procedure list, all the things that are going to happen in your classroom that you will need a procedure or routine for. And then I would do like 4 or 5 steps, right? So for example, walking into the room, right? Okay, you got the kids walking in the room, they got their backpack on, they come in quietly, they put their backpack on the hook or wherever you have it, a cubby or whatever. Then they go over to the table and get their folder or whatever procedure you want, right? Then they come over to the desk and sit down and they work on whatever you've stuffed in their folder. All right. That's entering the room. Now, I would have those 4 or 5 steps written out as a checklist for them or projected on the board, but definitely something that they can reference while you go over it, because that's called explicit instruction. Just telling them, okay, you're going to come in, put your backpack down, and then you're going to grab your folder and come sit down at your desk. It's not going to work. We're going to go over each step. We're going to talk about each step. And then I'm going to model. I'm going to show them how to do it. I'm going to say, okay, do we understand the steps? Step 1 is this. Step 2 is this. Step 3 is this, right? Go through it. Talk about it. Why is this important, do you think? Why is it important to sit down quietly when I'm taking attendance? Talk to them. Get them to understand why you put this rule in place. It's okay to talk to kids about why something's important. It's all good, right? And then say, okay, so now I'm going to have you watch me do this. So they all sit there. You're going to go outside the door. You're going to come in. You're going to model it and show them step by step how to do it. Modeling procedures is very important. And then you might have to model it again. And then they're going to practice. And when they practice, you're going to make them do it over and over and over again until they get it right. And I recommend not starting any instruction, any learning until your major procedures have been in place. So procedures for entering the room, procedures for transitions, procedures for lining up at the door. This could take a week. This could take the first full week of school. You can even design, assignments around it and activities around it. But I would be practicing those routines and procedures. And if you do have some sort of learning, like let's say you want to do the practice procedures and routines around transitions from math to English language arts or whatever, I would focus more on the procedures than you do on the actual work. The procedures are key. Now, for middle and high school, you're definitely going to have procedures for entering the classroom. This is when things can really fall apart in middle and high school. Kids come in, they're coming over your threshold into your room, and they're jostling each other. They're acting like kids. They're jumping up and hitting the thing. They always got to do that. They always have to jump up and hit the thing. I don't get it, but we did it too. They messing with their friend. They are cussing in the hallway. Okay. They're doing all these things and you need them to come in and be quiet, right? So they need to understand the expectation. So with middle and high school, and I've done this with juniors, seniors in high school, so it does work for everybody. You are going to focus the first day, 2-3 days of school on these procedures. Now for, this goes for elementary, middle, and high, you're going to want to have procedures when you stand in front of the room and when you want them to be quiet, right? When you want them to stop talking, that needs to be practiced. You might say, well, it's just respectful when the teacher stands in front of the room. They should know to be quiet. No, they don't know to be quiet. You have to practice it. It's an expectation. So, this mentality of, well, they should respect me. I'm the teacher. Couple of things here. Respect goes both ways. So you need to understand your students and that they are people too, and that you have to respect where they're coming from as well. And also that in order for people to meet your expectations, you have to tell them exactly what you want. Do not have them read your mind and do not rely on common sense, because I will tell you, common sense is not common even with adults. Even with adults, it's not. So try to eliminate that and focus, make your procedures and routines almost the same as an assignment. Like you are teaching your students science, you are teaching your students reading, you are teaching your students English language arts, you are teaching students your expectations. Now, I have more specific ways in which you can do this: bell ringers, cooperative learning, how you would move in and out of cooperative learning, and all the things that I learned over time. All of that needs to be mapped out, right? And so, using bell ringers at the beginning of class to make sure students come in, walk over your threshold and sit down and do the bell ringer, and training them to do that so that you have a minute to take attendance, middle and high school teachers, because you need about 5 or 10 minutes to do that. And you need it quiet. So those are just a few things I would really focus on. So number one, map the routines and procedures that you want to do in your classroom, understanding that it's not an exhaustive list, that it will change. Okay. Then step by step, and I wouldn't have any more than 4 or 5 steps for each procedure. And then I would get them printed out on some sort of paper for them to have, or make sure you're able to project them onto the board so students can have it. And those procedures for elementary are basically anything you do in the classroom. Middle and high school, walking into the class, maybe lab work. If you're a science teacher, there should be a procedure in place for lab work. I mean, we know we do labs. I was a science teacher. It's a free-for-all if you do not have practice routines and procedures. Think about it. You give them Bunsen burners and scalpels and all this equipment. They're kids. What are they going to do? They're going to touch it. They're going to do stupid things. I would too. I'm an adult and I would touch it and mess with it. They're just people. So think about that. Make sure you tell them what your expectation is before they do that. Someone's asking, put these expectation procedures in a syllabus. Yes, Tammy, absolutely. Now I would try to narrow down the most important, because you're going to have procedures for a lot of different things, but I would definitely have entering the room and what you do when the teacher stands in front of the room. Now, some elementary school teachers will have a bell that they ring. I've seen it on their lanyards, like a doorbell, which is amazing. Other teachers, what I would do is I would just stand in the front of the room and hold my hand up. And they knew that that was when we needed to stop. Now, how did I get a bunch of 16 and 17-year-old kids to stop what they're doing and look at me and get serious? It took me a week to undo the damage of having 7 different substitutes who were just there to kind of just be placeholders. The teacher had retired in the middle of the year, which I get. After 38 years, when your time is up, you're out of there. So I get it. But retiring in the middle of the year made them feel abandoned. They do. They have feelings too. And then having all the substitutes in there who meant well, it's hard to be a substitute. I know I was a substitute, but there was no continuity in the classroom. So they were crazy. And so I had to go back. I stopped all instruction because my mom, who was a principal, told me to stop all instruction and go through procedures. I thought she was crazy and it wouldn't work, but I was so desperate, I did it. And we went over procedures for 2 days. I made them go outside the classroom, come back inside the classroom, go outside the classroom, come inside the classroom until they did it perfectly. And then we moved on to lab procedures and we did this and that. And then we came back and then we did this and that and we came back. I would have them talk to each other in the room and say, okay, go ahead, discuss with your partners or whatever, talk to each other. I don't care, have a conversation. And then I would stand in front of the room and put my hand up. And they would slowly learn to stop and look at me. And I'd say, that was okay, but it took you 10 seconds. I need it done in 2 seconds. Okay, so let's do it again. Again and again and again with 16, 17-year-old kids until they got it right. And then the next day they'd come in and they didn't get it. They went right back. And so I was like, okay, we need to practice again. So take it outside and come back in and take it outside and come back in. And then they got it. And then, 4 or 5 months later, they lost it again. So what did I need to do? Do it again. Go back outside. We've lost our procedures, guys. It's okay. We're getting lazy. That's okay. It's the middle of the year or it's Christmas break or it's Halloween and the kids are nuts. It's okay. We just need to brush up on it. Take it out, come back in. No need to yell. No need to get into it with any kids. Just calmly say, close your books. We're not doing this. We're going to do procedures now for the next 15, 20 minutes. And they'll be like, oh, okay, we get it. Okay. And they will do it. You have to set the expectation. You have to model the expectation and you have to practice the expectation. That's really, really important. Okay. All right. What kind of rewards and consequences can I have in my classroom? How many? Okay. Rewards and consequences. Typically on the teacher certification exams, I always tell you that extrinsic rewards are typically bad things in the answer choices. But in life, a Jolly Rancher, a cookie, or whatever you're giving the kids, a homework pass or whatever. You may have kids allergic to stuff in your classroom, so you don't want to have a lot of food in your classroom. That's okay. Homework pass, extra time on the playground, whatever, it all works. The thing that you need to remember about extrinsic rewards is that they will wear off. And if you're constantly giving rewards, they're going to wear off, or the kids will say, where's my treat after they do something? So I would use them sparingly. What kids really love is praise. So like in elementary, and I praise differently in elementary than I do middle and high, because middle and high school kids are so concerned about their image that if you praise them, they could die a little bit on the inside. So you have to be careful. Although some kids, the way you say it helps. So let's start with elementary. So for rewards and consequences, rewards are, hey, Jose, thank you so much for coming in the room the way you were supposed to. You were super quiet. You got your book. I think you were like the first one in. Thank you so much. You made my day. He's going to really love that. Just being called out by the teacher in a positive way. And the other kids are going to go, oh. Or like if you're teaching the smaller kids and it's time to get on the rug for reading time and you want them to sit crisscross applesauce or whatever. And you're like, I'm using generic names here, guys, like from old time thing, but I love how Susie is sitting on the carpet with her legs crisscross applesauce and she's just ready for me to read. Thank you so much, Susie. And the other kids are like, oh, I want to do that. I want praise, so praise always works. Specific praise for specific actions. Be intentional about it. Don't just say good job. Say thank you for doing X, Y, and Z. That always helps. All right. And then, of course, you could throw them a little piece of candy when they're not expecting it. Don't say, every day you're going to get a piece of candy for doing X, Y, and Z. No, they should have the expectations down. And when they do it really well, you throw them a Jolly Rancher, you throw them whatever. if you're allowed to have candy in the classroom or whatever, or you give them a homework pass, or you let them be the line leader. I don't know, for elementary, there's all kinds of ways you can praise and help. So just, it doesn't have to be every single time. Now, consequences, I know that a lot of you are talking about consequences for not doing the work, and consequences are really, really important. And so my experience, and I know that there are always going to be exceptions to the rules, but when we practice routines and procedures, you are going to eliminate 90% of bad behaviors in your classroom. You're still going to have one or two that are always going to do it, you guys. And that's, where you have to get creative with these one or two kids. Now, consequences can come by making bad choices, and you can decide, am I going to move your seat? Am I going to, whatever your consequences are. But I would say focus on positive behaviors, implement the routines and procedures. And when you have an issue with a student, just as a general thought, I would not get into it with a student in front of the class. Okay. I know how hard it is because you want to just scream your head off. But as soon as you get into it with a student, now they are compelled to yell back at you because they don't want to look weak and stupid. So if you say, hey, knock that off, they're going to go and give you attitude. You know what I mean? Even the little guys, they're going to give you attitude. Some of them will go, some kids will go, oh, she's mad. Okay. But a lot of kids will fight back because they don't want to look stupid in front of their friends. Okay. Or they don't like the way you talk to them. They don't want to be yelled at across the room. Okay. So, that's one of those things that I don't like to do. I don't like to get into it with a kid in a classroom. Now, have I? Yeah, I've definitely lost my cool in the classroom. Ask any of my former students. There have been days, but I would just try to redirect as much as possible. And if you have a problem with a student, don't break instruction. And this takes a lot of practice. And I talk about this in my new online course and my book. Don't break instruction. Keep moving. Walk over to the students, use proximity control, wait till the end, and then have a conversation with those students. Now, one thing that's helped me a lot with classroom management with my kids, the ones that are antsy, the ones that can't follow directions, I usually give them a task and make them feel really important. So I had older kids, and I had a couple kids who were just like crazy and just couldn't sit still, didn't want to sit still. One kid really needed to just get up and walk to the back of the room because he just couldn't sit in the seat. It was uncomfortable. I know I'm one of those people. When I'm at an assembly or when I'm at like my daughter's big, like if we got to go to a cheerleading meeting or something like that, I don't sit. I stand in the back because I don't want to sit. And there are kids who don't want to sit either. And so let them stand in the back. It's like one or two kids, as long as they don't disrupt, and have a conversation with them. Hey, listen, I'm going to let you get up from your seat when you need to and go stand in the back of the room because I get it, but I need you to do it quietly and without disrupting. And if you can't, then I'm going to take the privilege away. This kid did it. He'd just get up as soon as he was feeling just agitated. He'd just get up quietly, go to the back, stand in the back. It didn't break my instruction. The kids got used to it. It was fine. Nobody else was like, I want to stand in the back of the room. It was like his deal. And that was the thing. So, always trying to meet students where they are is really, really helpful. So I see some of you are sharing some of your consequences and rewards and things like that. The thing is consistency. And with this practice routines and procedures, it takes practice on your end. Please do not think that you are going to start the school year off your first, second, or third year, and it's going to be perfect, and you're going to implement these procedures, and these kids are just going to listen to you, and everything's going to be perfect, right? It's not. You have to keep trying. And that goes for really cool lessons that you've planned that just totally exploded in your face because they didn't understand what was going on, and you thought this was the perfect lesson, and then you did it, and it blew up. That's okay. You can try it again tomorrow with better procedures and expectations and maybe a little practice. You can say to the kids when you walk in, all right, I was really looking forward to this lesson. And it didn't work out yesterday for whatever reason. I must not have explained myself and given you, my expectations clearly. Let's try this again because I really want to do this activity with you guys, and they'll go, okay, let's try it again. They will meet you where you are. Okay. What should you say if students are jealous or whatever because they didn't have an alternate spot? You're always going to have students who are jealous. You can talk to that student after class and just say, it's not about you. It's about the other student. And you don't have to explain yourself why you allowed somebody to do something. I usually would say things like, this is my classroom and I have an agreement with this student. I cater to your needs as well. I differentiate instruction and intervene when you need me. I know what you need. This is not what you need. So it's as simple as that. If it doesn't work and you've got a couple of kids who have to stay in the back of the room, say, okay, fine. You want to get up every 5 minutes, and then you can do what we do in special education, which is saturation effect. And you could say, okay, well then every 2 minutes, I'm going to call on you to go in the back of the room. And then you keep getting up and going to the back of the room and you keep letting them do it. They'll get sick of doing it. Etta has a calming corner. Very good. That's really good for the young kids. A calming corner, cool down kits, those types of things. Awesome. And everybody's talking about consistency. Yes, consistency. Stick with it. Keep trying. All right. So that's just a little bit on the classroom management. I have much more robust strategies in the book. And I also just developed an online course called Teach a Survival Course for new educators. And I'm going to put this in the chat. I usually have my colleague in the chat, but the offer code, let me just check really quickly here. I want to make sure. I have an offer code for 20% off. And so I want to make sure you guys get that today. Let me see. Yeah. Okay. So it is Teach 20. Let me go back to here. Teach 20 offer code for online course. Okay. This will give you 20% off the online course. Let me just show you really quick. We're not done yet. I'm going to give you some more stuff. If you're on TikTok, I can't share my screen. That's why it's just my me, but I'll talk to you about it here. So this is the online course. You guys can see it's just like our other courses. And I know some of you are telling me you passed your SLLA. There's somebody in TikTok. Thank you for your leadership and test prep. That's amazing. I'm so glad you passed the SLLA. Tough test. Finally passed my test after getting your course. That's so great. Marie, love that. Thank you. Beth passed her SLLA. So I'm super excited about this. This follows that. You can see an introduction here, but then I get into how to cultivate a successful teacher mindset. You need a little bit of this, obviously, when you are teaching. And I have some just tips there. And then I get into the nitty gritty, the classroom management. I get into more specific expectations, routines, and procedures and how to do that, how to use bell work. Bell work is so important to my practice, super important. And then I get into specific procedures for the classrooms, which ones I used and which ones you might want to use. Then I go through individual student behaviors, like what happens when you have that kid or those two kids. So I have some, discipline. I was an assistant principal of discipline also. So I was the hammer at a school of like 2,000 high school kids. So I have tried it all. I've tried punitive measures. I've tried getting angry. I've tried bribery. But the main thing that worked the best for me was positive behaviors, supports about this and that. Then I move into instructional planning, which I'm going to talk to you about that next. I really help you with your standards and objectives, how to write lesson plans. And then I get into all the things I did in my classroom for effective instruction, questioning and wait time, increasing metacognition, vocabulary, raft writing strategy, and all of that. And then at the end, I have some closing thoughts for you. So that is the online course. And if you use that offer code, you can get it for 20% off. Now, normally I give the book with the course, and that course is only $39.99. It's super worth it, you guys. It's like hours of videos. So I definitely recommend it. Usually I give the book with the course, but this I can't give out digitally because I offer it on Kindle Unlimited. And if you offer your publications on Kindle Unlimited, you're not allowed to offer them digitally anywhere else. And I know a lot of teachers have Kindle Unlimited, so I wanted them to be able to get this book for free if you had Kindle Unlimited. So I can't offer it in the course, but there is a link there to get it. And let me just show you. Oh, let me find that. I can show you exactly where to get the book, and I will share it in. There's going to be a follow-up email that comes with this webinar. So you're going to get everything I talk about today in an email. So let me go ahead and just share screen there so you can get this. It's on Amazon, and it's called Teach, a Survival Guide for New Educators. It's this book. We have 69 5-star reviews, and I love that it's frequently bought together with the first days of school. This was the book that I read. It's got tons of editions now. This is probably like the 20th edition here. But this book here is really good. It's geared towards elementary, like I said, but the first days of school is good for all. Mine is geared towards all grade levels, but I was a high school teacher. So there's a lot of high school teacher stories and strategies in here, but you can use it for anything. And a lot of people buy my book with his book. And I was super excited about that. But you can get it on Kindle Unlimited here for $9.99, and you can get the paperback for $14.99 and regular Kindle $9.99 if you don't have unlimited. All right. Okay. So now that I've told you all that, and I've been working really hard on this online course because I wanted to give you something to like go through, and you can listen to it also. There are some downloads, and I do share my screen a little bit when it comes to standards, but for the most part, you can listen to it. You can plug it into your headphones and just go for a walk. All right. So I love teaching, but for the love of God, I cannot pass my GACE exam. All right. I do talk a lot about teacher certification exams. It's really hard to manage your first year of teaching and passing all your certification exams. You will pass. Don't give up. We have a lot of free webinars and things like that to help you with that. But just remember, standardized assessment is like a thing in education, and it's a reality for teachers as well. And unfortunately, you have to jump through that hoop that your students have to jump through too. But if you keep going and you apply those strategies we talk about, you will pass. You will pass. Okay. All right. I see some people talking about cell phones. So somebody said our school collects all cell phones in a caddies and stores them at the main office at the beginning of the day. Penalties include retaining the phone by admin. Okay. Detention works quite well. Okay. So I know a lot of people have thoughts about cell phones in the classroom. This is really tough. For a lot of districts, they don't want to collect cell phones because it is student property. And some of these cell phones are $2,000 a piece. And whether you agree with that or not, it doesn't matter. It's somebody's property. And I encountered this a lot as an assistant principal. I had a different view when I was a teacher. And then when I became an assistant principal and realized the legal ramifications of taking somebody's property, that's where I changed. I personally would not take anybody's cell phone. If they do not meet the expectation, then there are going to be consequences in my classroom. But I would have a cell phone policy in my classroom. And the thing that you need to understand is, first of all, we all love our cell phones. Okay. So again, let me see somebody say, give me 1 second, Samantha, and I'll have a look at it. Let's see here. Teach 120 specific collections. It looks like it's working. Let's see. Let me try really quickly. Give me 1 second, guys. Somebody's asking me a question about this, and let me see if it works. I'm going to test it in just a second. Somebody's saying the offer code doesn't work. So let me just test it. Give me 1 second. Somebody was asking about the offer code. Okay, so cell phones. Cell phones, I wouldn't take them, but that's on me. Some people have a charging station in their room that works really well, where the kids come in and they plug in their phones. That's expensive for teachers to buy. Here's the thing that I did when I was a high school teacher. I built in the expectation for cell phones in my procedures. I also gave students some time at the end of class to look things up on their cell phones, to use their cell phones as a learning tool and things like that. You are never going to solve the cell phone problem. They have cell phones in federal prison. I mean, if prison guards can't keep cell phones out of prison, you're not going to be able to keep them out of your classroom. Here's a couple things I would do though to avoid cell phone use. Okay. If you go and sit down at your desk, like let's say you have a cooperative learning activity or you have students working on individual work, if you go and sit down at your desk, they're going to get off task. Okay. Just know that. Now, there are times where you have to sit down at your desk, like you need them to work on something so you can do something at the computer. There might be an emergency email, there might be something, whatever. But if you sit down, they are going to do their own thing. So if you are working on cooperative learning and they're in groups, that's not the time to sit down at your desk. I would get up, walk around, be nosy, look at everybody's paper, talk to the kids as they're working quietly. I would just be constantly up and around the room. If you do have to sit down at your desk and do an email or whatever, I would do it sparingly. I would spend most of my time working in and around the students so that your presence is there. Your presence, just merely being all in their business, is going to reduce the cell phone use. Now, that's not to say that some kid isn't going to take out the cell phone. Then you can decide what you want to do when the student makes that choice. But I would stay away from taking somebody's property, in my own opinion, because if you lose it, if it breaks, the parent can come after the school district or your school for the money, and it's expensive. So, but yeah, I mean, you can sign it into law, no cell phones. There's a law for federal prison, cell phones too, no cell phones in federal prison, and they still have them. So unfortunately. Okay. Lola's asking, the book doesn't come with the class. No, it can't, because I offer it on Kindle Unlimited for free, and I can't offer it in two places. I'm sorry. If I have it on Kindle Unlimited for free, I'm not allowed to offer it digitally on my website. It's like a thing I'm not allowed to do. And I don't want to get sued by Amazon. All right. The offer code is now working. Please try again. All right. Yana is in the chat. She is letting you guys know. Sorry about that. You guys, I tried the offer code and couldn't get it to work, but it's working now. Teach 20. Go ahead and do that if you want. If you're on TikTok, I have it in my link in bio. All right. Now let's talk about instructional planning. I know cell phones are a big thing. I know classroom management is a big thing. I would work on those procedures and routines. It's going to eliminate a lot of bad behavior. I would engage the students as much as possible. And I would remember that they are people, and people like cell phones, and people like to talk to their friends, and people don't always follow instructions. And so I would look at it that way and try not to have a dualistic mindset. And I know it's easier said than done. Please understand, I was a teacher and an AP. I dealt with like some of the worst behaviors in the school. Okay. Like bad stuff that I won't even talk about here. Another thing for middle and high school, stand at your door. Stand at your door, be in the hall, look at them, talk to them as they come in. Hey, I'm so glad you're here today. Thank you so much for showing up to my class. Hey, what's up? How are things going? How's the basketball team going? Stand at your door. First of all, the school needs you at your door because we need supervision in the hallways. And I know you have stuff to do, and I know you have to go to the bathroom. That's okay. But for the most part, if you could stand at your door, that would be great. Secondly, you set the tone for the kids when they come in. They might have just gotten yelled at their science teacher or their math teacher, okay? And they might be in a bad mood. Try to get them to shake it off and be like, hey, Jacob, I'm so excited you're here today. We're going to do some really cool stuff today. Awesome. Hey, so-and-so, great, come on in. I'm so happy you're here. Just kind of engaging them in that way is going to set the tone and make them, want to work for you. Kids like nice teachers. And I don't mean nice like you're a pushover. I was not a pushover. I was very serious in my classroom. My voice, I always talked like this. I deepened my voice. I had a very, I was rigid in my classroom, but I was kind. So, and not always, I lost my cool a couple of times, but you want to make sure that you are asserting your dominance in the classroom because it's your classroom, but at the same time, treating them like people. All right, let's talk about standards. Okay. So when I first started teaching, I didn't know what a standard was, because I got the keys to the classroom and the teacher edition and a good luck, and hopefully they don't eat you alive, and we'll see how you do. That was my teacher prep. And I had a lot of fun planning lessons and doing fun activities. I never thought about a standard. And it wasn't until I got observed, my assistant principal came in and she said, "You're teaching to the standards, right?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, totally teaching to the standards." I didn't know what a standard was. So it wasn't until later where my peer teacher taught me what a standard was. So I'm going to just show you guys really quickly, if you're a brand new teacher, on top of the classroom management piece, I recommend you have a look at the standards for the year for your class. Okay. Now, let me share screen here really quickly. All I did here, and if you're on TikTok, all I did was Google Iowa academic standards. It could be New Jersey academic standards. It could be whatever, Louisiana academic standards, your state, and then the word academic standards. And the website will come up, and typically standards will be at the top. Now, some websites, and you can see here, I'm sharing the website of Iowa academic standards. You can see that this is a pretty user-friendly website. We've got literacy, which is going to be ELA, math, science, social studies, career and technical education, all these different things. So I'm going to pick science just because I was a science teacher. Then you scroll down here and you can see all the grade levels, right? All right, let's choose 8th grade. Actually, yeah, let's choose 8th grade is fine, okay? So we have PS up here, which is physical science. We have LS, which is life science. And we have ES, which is earth science, right? These are the 3 main domains in science: physics, physical science, life, and earth space. And then as you get into the upper grades, those get divided into like physics gets broken down, and physical science gets broken down into physics and chemistry, life science, it might be biology versus marine biology, that type of thing. So it gets broken down, but these are the 3 main domains in science, okay? And so you can go down here and you see all of these standards, right? These are the standards of your class that you're teaching. If you are in middle school science, MS, physical science, and then right here. Now, the reason why you're going to want these is because you need to understand what you need to be teaching. And while most textbooks follow the standards, you just want to make sure that what you're doing is aligned to the standards. Now, again, I go into this more in depth here and how to build objectives using these standards. Some districts will have curriculum maps. So you can Google your district and do curriculum map. There are a lot of, I used to make curriculum maps for teachers when I worked downtown at the district office. They'll kind of put everything in there. They'll put your standards, they'll organize them and all of that. Some districts will not. Some districts will not have a curriculum map. They don't have the people to do it. You got to come up with it on your own. So there are a lot of different tools you can use to kind of organize your year or your first 9 weeks, okay? But I definitely want to encourage you to use the standards, because you don't want to be like me and have your assistant principal walk in and say, "Are you teaching to the standards?" And you're like, "Oh yeah, I'm totally teaching to the standards." My district sets up our lessons according to our state standards. That's great. Now, a lot of you have required lesson plans. Some of you, have to do your lesson plans each week. Most people do. And I have a whole way in which you can do that in my course using ChatGPT. Everything is so much easier now when it comes to planning. I'm not saying teaching. Teaching is harder than ever, and the attack on educators right now is crazy, so it's harder. But you have AI. Not that AI can solve all the problems when it comes to education, but it will solve your lesson planning problems. And I recommend that you use that. Because it's going to help you. Now, along with your standards, you're going to want your objectives, and your objectives are the lessons for the day. And I see somebody's talking about success criteria on the board. And I know a lot of teachers get upset when the principal says, "Please put your lesson objectives on the board." And I get it. It's like, why do I have to have my lesson objective on the board? Here's the thing. Putting your objective on the board does absolutely nothing. You're right. But if you have the objectives on the board and you discuss with students what they're responsible for, the learning is going to be much more impactful. So for example, if I say, "Hey guys, we're working on this standard today," and I show them the standard, right? And I say, "So we're going to talk about ecosystems, but we're going to relate this and that and blah, blah, blah." And I say the standard. And I say, "Here are 3 objectives we're responsible today before the end of the class period. We're going to do this. Objective number 1. We're going to do this. Objective number 2. Okay. And by the end of the class period, you should be able to do these 2 things. Okay. That is way more effective than just putting objectives on the board and ignoring them, or keeping the same objectives on the board just for the whole year. I knew teachers who did that. Okay. And then we do a little learning and we're talking, and you see that you've met an objective and you might go, hey, did we meet the first objective? Let's go over it again real quick. They go over it and you're like, thumbs up, thumbs down. Did we meet that? Yeah, we met it. Okay. What about the second objective? Thumbs up, middle, thumbs down. And they might be like, okay, we still have work to do. So let's keep going. This is all about giving them ownership of their learning. It's going to help them understand what standards are, because at the end of the year, they're tested on these standards. And so if you want them to be successful on the state exam and you want your scores to go up, I would focus on standards and I would communicate those standards to your students, just like I do to you when I tell you, hey, these are the good words that are in the test specifications. And these are the standards the test is aligned to. Don't I use that language with you? Why not use that with your students? Because they're going to pass, they're going to do better. And I know it's not all about the test, but it is when it comes to they can't go on to fourth grade without passing it. It does when they can't graduate high school without passing it, like in Florida, we're the testing capital of the world here. And if they don't pass, they don't get a diploma. So it would behoove us to communicate the standards to the students and also build objectives around that and then communicate those objectives. And again, I get more specific. It takes me about an hour to do that online in my book. It's here too, but it's if you prefer print, but I also do it in a video and I share my screen and show you how to do that. Okay. It's sharing objectives, communicating. Just tell the kids, tell them what you want them to do. I need you to meet these objectives before the end of this period. Okay. Why? Because it's tested. And we need to make sure you're successful on the test. You can say that to them. I know a lot of people are like, oh, we don't want to teach to the test. Okay, well, the whole education system in the United States is dependent on standardized assessment. If we're going to pretend that we're not teaching to the test, I mean, we can do that, I guess. But I mean, you are. If you're doing standards, you are. They will be successful on the exam. All right. So that's a great idea. It gives the day some structure. Yes. Oh, and I do understand that elementary, you have learning objectives then for like a bunch of like for everything, you can tailor it down, maybe one objective per thing, or you could have a set of objectives for the week or something. Figure out how it won't overwhelm you with like constantly erasing your objectives on the board and rewriting them. Figure out a way where you can project them and also talk about them. And I'll tell you this, if your principal walks into your room and you're communicating standards and objectives to your students, game over. You are like highly effective in that category. That's going to knock your principal's socks off. I know it. When I saw that, when I was an AP and I was observing teachers, I was like so impressed. And then referring back to the standard or the objective when you've gotten through some stuff, so great. Principals love it. Okay. I explain my objectives to my students daily. I will give an exit ticket. Yes. So R. Woodward on TikTok, exit tickets. I talk about that as well in my course. It's a great way to assess student understanding. And I too used to use the objective to kind of guide my exit ticket to make sure like when I'm collecting that data that I'm getting the right data. If the objective is what we're trying to do, then I use that. That is such a good practice. Well done. Yes, yes. That makes a lot of sense in teaching objectives to the test. Yes. And again, we don't need to say like I'm teaching to the test, but I mean, we are. They're taking a big test at the end of the year for the most part, many of them. I teach kindergarten and I teach standards. Good. All right. What about the special question? Is that important? Okay. So the essential question or the special question is an objective. You're just turning it into a question. So for example, I'll use a science example here because that's what I'm most comfortable with, that and English language arts and reading, but let's do science. So let's say we're doing DNA, 10th grade science. Okay. And one of my objectives, two of my objectives are, the first one is identify the nitrogen bases of the DNA molecule. That's easy. That's just naming things. That's a low-level skill. That's a low-level objective. And I go over the levels of objectives as well in here using Bloom's taxonomy, but and in the course. But the second objective might be relate the structure of the DNA function, relate the structure of the DNA molecule to its function. So your essential question, instead of the objective, you might use questioning. You might have 3 essential questions on the board. Okay. How does, and make sure it's open-ended, so it's upper level, higher level. How does the structure of the DNA molecule relate to its function? And when they can answer that in depth, they've met the objective. So that's great. The questions are the same. Very important. Exit tickets can further help you with those essential questions. But yeah, essential questions are key. What are exit tickets? Exit tickets are a way to collect data, because remember, we're data driven. This is how I did it. Everybody does it a little differently, but I give out sticky notes to kids. I usually give out like a little thing for the week or whatever. And on a sticky note, you ask them a question. There are so many different ways you can do exit slips. 3, 2, 1 exit slip, 3 things you learned, 2 ahas, 1 question you still have. You could say to them, hey, what question do you still have about what we talked about today? And give them 5 minutes, 5 minutes kind of long. Give them 2 minutes to write it down. And when they leave, oh no, I'm going to end. Hang on. Oh, shoot. Oh, hang on. There we go. It's going to end. Okay. Sorry. TikTok's like, you're going to end. All right. When they leave, they stick the sticky note on the board and you just collect it. You collect it and it's data. We are data driven. So it's such a good way to do things, to get that immediate formative data that's going to help you. Then if they all have the same question, you're like, oh, I thought I went over that. I guess I didn't. And you don't have to be hard on yourself. You might, there are times where I'm like, I went over that and everybody in the class missed it on the test. Well, is that their problem or my problem? My problem. I need to go back and work on that. How do we do exit tickets with kindergarten? That's a tough one, Ms. Williams. Kindergarten is tough. You could have it already filled out for them and have them maybe check a box. I would look that up. I'm sorry, I don't have the exact answer to that. Again, kindergarten teachers, you amaze me. But you could definitely use it in different ways. You collect data differently with kindergarten. You might use observations and things like that. Okay, let's see here. For kindergarten, I may do a verbal exit ticket question or use a flashcard. Okay, good. Also, thumbs up, thumbs down. That doesn't give you like rich qualitative data, but you at least get some data. Do we have it? Yeah. Do we kind of have it? Do we not have it at all? And you can gauge that way. Maybe using emojis. Yes, that looks awesome. You guys have so many good ideas. I love teachers because I think I have like a good idea. And then like an elementary teacher will come and like laminate it and like put pizzazz on it. And it's so much better. So yes, help each other in the chat. Awesome. Okay. So we went over standards and objectives. Of course, that's a whole other lesson. So make sure you know about that. Somebody's saying they couldn't find their New Jersey standards. I use the New Jersey standards all the time. Just do NJ academic standards. Again, some websites are easier to use than others. And then I would go down to your district website and see if they have any curriculum maps, because most districts map things out for their teachers. You just have to figure out where that is. Okay. The next thing, effective instruction. So we already talked about using the objectives. That's very effective instruction. And we already talked about using exit slips. That's data collection. That's very effective instruction. Both of those things, if you're using them, are not only going to be very effective in your classroom, but it's going to, again, move you up the ranks on your teacher evaluation. When principals see you using these practices, it's very, very helpful. Okay. A few other things I would keep in mind when it comes to instructional practices, which I go into more in depth more. Make sure that you have some sort of cooperative learning structure. So you want to make sure that when you are using cooperative learning, that it's very structured, that each student has a job. It's not just group work. It's not just a free for all. You also have ways in which you get into cooperative learning. And I talk about this more in the course and in the book, but you want to have a procedure for how students get into groups, because here's what happens. You say, okay, everybody, get into groups. What do? They get up, they start elbowing, hitting each other. They take their time. They mosey on over. They don't do what they want. And you're like, hey, stop. Hey, don't listen, sit down. And you're doing this thing and it's like total chaos, right? Instead, practice procedures for cooperative learning. Make sure everybody has the same group for 9 weeks. You can switch the group after 9 weeks. That's what I used to do. That way they know exactly where they're going every 9 weeks. Practice the procedures so that when you say, okay, it's cooperative learning time, please get into your groups. They get up, they get into their groups, and it only takes them 20 seconds instead of 20 minutes. So make sure you outline that. And then, of course, I like to have the same structure for my instruction. I like to do direct instruction, usually a read aloud, think aloud. Then I get into cooperative learning, then individual learning, then exit tickets. I always use bell work. In the book, I have the structure laid out for you so you can see it. But here's what I recommend. You don't have to use my structure, but I use my structure every day. My classes followed the same structure every day. The content changed, but it followed the same kind of path every single day. And the students liked it because they knew what to expect. I didn't have to reinvent the wheel every single time. And then when I was now I use ChatGPT. We didn't have ChatGPT when I was a teacher. I wish they had. Now when I use ChatGPT, I plug in that structure, and I show you how to do this in the course. I plug in that structure and I use ChatGPT, and it just all the way through using my structure, that skeleton for the course or for my lesson plans. And then we go from there. So I recommend you figure out, how do you want your class to run? You're going to need to do a little bit of direct instruction, teacher-led, a little bit of cooperative learning, a little bit of independent learning. You don't want to be standing up there lecturing for an hour, even if it's high school students. You want to do, 10 to 20 minutes of each thing, boop, 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 moving around. Okay. Any advice on seating charts and when to change them for kindergarten? Okay. Again, seating charts are tough. You might want to just say, I like the 9-week thing, because it's like, look, you're working together for 9 weeks. Maybe you have the clusters, and I know a lot of kindergarten classes have the clusters of desks. You're there for 9 weeks or 4 weeks, whatever you want to do, because it gives people, you got to have consistency in the classroom. If you're constantly changing things up, it's just, now we got to practice another procedure. So I might make the seating chart. You could give the students, like maybe you make the seating chart for the first 9 weeks and they're good. And you might say to them, listen, this is going to be the seating chart for the first 9 weeks. Okay. If you follow my procedures and routines and everything's working out, for the second 9 weeks, I'll let you sit where you want. And I'll draft another seating chart. And if you can do what you need to do for those 9 weeks, we can keep sitting where we want to sit for each 9 weeks. Okay. And remind them when they start to get rowdy, you might say, we might have to revisit that seating chart. I don't know if we're going to be able to keep this seating chart. And they'll be like, oh no, I want to sit by my friend. You'll have to remind them, but you might want to change it up every 9 weeks. It just depends. And you're going to try these things out and you're going to figure out what works for you. I was thinking about giving my students a number when they come into the class, as well as numbers on the desk. They will match their number with the number on the desk. That would be great for the first few days of school, for sure. Brandy, you sound like an elementary teacher. So there's a lot more work on the elementary end when it comes to getting the kids in and getting their stuff, because you have so many content areas in one area. The difference with high school and middle is that we have kids that are bigger than us and they have a lot of attitude, but they're amazing too, Big thank you for this amazing info. Have a wonderful school year. You too, Norma. Thank you for joining. All right. And the last thing I'm going to go over, and I know we have only scratched the surface, is a little bit of time management. I just want to give you a little piece of advice here as someone who did it all in education, like, not all, but did a lot of what you're doing in education. Okay. First thing I would do is read my contract. Find out what you're responsible for. And you need to know that you do not have to do more than what's in your contract. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be like an angry, mean person that's like, that's not part of my contract, and you could do that if that's what you want to be. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but they're not paying you anything extra. Okay. They're not paying you enough. And so what I would recommend is that you read your contract and you learn what you are responsible for. How long are you supposed to be in the building? When are you supposed to be there? Be there at that time. And when are your contract hours over? And when they are over, they're over. Now, as a new teacher, you are going to stay late for the first few months, maybe even the first year. But here's what I recommend, because these are habits we make early on, and then we end up having breakdowns and burnout. Okay. I would set my priorities to be, when I'm here at school, I'm going to give them 100%. But when I'm done, I'm done. So there are a few things that you can do. Number one, you can use AI to help you with some of these administrative tasks that take a lot of time. Now, I wrote this book before AI hit the scene. It was like came out a month before. So in the online course, I show you how to use AI, and you can just try using it any way you want. You don't need a course on it. You can try using it any way you want. So I would try to automate some of those tasks. The other thing is, you have 24 hours to respond to email. You might want to put an autoresponder on your email that says, thank you so much for contacting me. I will respond to you within 24 hours, because some parents think that they get to talk to you like you're on call for them. Do not give out your number to parents. I would not give out my cell phone number to parents. Do not, that's just something I wouldn't do. Okay. The other thing is, I would practice leaving when your day is done. Now, I know you're like, I can't, I have too much to do. Okay. Here's what I would say. If you can practice leaving on time on like Wednesday, one day a week, just try it. Okay. So you stayed late Monday, you stayed late Tuesday. On Wednesday, you're going to do everything you can. And then when it's done, you're going to shut down your computer and you're going to go home. I would try doing that once or twice a week until you learn how to get it within the school day. Now, someone's saying here, my first 3 years, I came in early and stayed until 6:30 p.m. Absolutely, Melissa. I did the same thing as an assistant principal. I was on the bus ramp at 6:30. I didn't go home till 11:30 at night. It's just not sustainable. And so we can do a few things to fix this. Number one, don't say yes to everything. Say no. No is a complete sentence. You can say no. If you're not interested in coaching, say no. Say, I'm going to focus on my classroom. Or you can just say, no, thank you. No, thank you. That's a complete sentence. All right. And you can say, you can explain yourself, but I wouldn't explain yourself. Now, if you want to do stuff, do it, but just remember, it's extra time. And I would just be protective. I would have boundaries up, and there are things I'm willing to do and there are things I'm not willing to do. And I wish I had done that when I was new, because it took me so long to break those bad habits, And yes, you're a new teacher. You're going to come in early. You're going to stay late. But I would say figure out a way where you can leave on time at least one day a week. Maybe Fridays are the day that you leave on time. Maybe Wednesdays are the day you leave on time. And when you do, try not to bring it home with you. Trust me, it will be there when you wake up in the morning and you go to school. I also did some time blocking towards the end of my career, and I do it now for sure. I do time blocking where there's a certain amount of time that I use for email. I used to do my email when I left school for the day. So the emails would come through and I would answer them when I left school for the day. And then I did not do the email until I was done the following day. Because if I'm constantly doing email, it's pulling me out of what I'm doing, and it's a never-ending task. You have 24 hours to respond to an email. Now, if your principal emails you, that's a different story. You need to respond to the email. But if it's a parent question, if it's general stuff, time block it and do it at the end of the day. This thing that we do as Americans, and I think it's just everywhere, where we are constantly available and we're just constantly answering people's questions, it pulls us out of what we're supposed to be doing, which is being educators. So I would time block email. I would time block lesson planning. I would use AI as much as possible. And I would reduce the number of things. Somebody saying Talking Points app. Yes, I'm like an AI addict. I just got a new app too on my phone that you can talk into and it'll summarize it for you, and you can copy and paste it and put it into an email. It's amazing. So check out a lot of the AI apps. It'll help you with email for sure. Don't respond to parents right away. They will expect it every time. Yes, Tammy. They'll be texting you or emailing you in the middle of class and mad that you didn't, you're teaching. Okay. Just be responsive, but you have 24 hours. I learned about Google Voice. It goes to my phone, but doesn't give my number out, keeps a record of for documentation. Great, Nancy. And that's a good thing too. Documentation, document everything. Last year, I was so stressed writing lesson plans. Marissa, let me show you, or Marcia, let me show you something. Let's just do a quick lesson plan here because I love it. All right, let's go to, let me share a screen. I'm going to fix that for you. Okay. All right. So let's just say here, Maricia, I hope I'm not butchering your name. Let's just say this is my standard right here, MS PS3 energy. Okay. Physical science energy. And these are, let's just say this standard is the one I'm working on this week. Okay. I'm going to copy it. Then I'm going to go into ChatGPT, new chat. Okay. You can get to ChatGPT, and I'm using the paid version, but you can use the free version. It's just as good, I think. But I use the paid just because I don't know why I use the paid. But please write me a lesson plan and 3 objectives for the following standard. Now, this is a generic prompt. It should be a little more nuanced. You'll say things like, please include direct instruction, cooperative learning. You can add your structure in there. You can add whatever it is. You can say, please include accommodations for students with IEPs and for those who struggle, because that's probably part of your lesson plan. And you can even go down the list and tell it what you want it to do. Okay. But I'm just going to do this for the sake of time. Okay. I'm hitting enter. TikTok. I'm on ChatGPT. Boom. Lesson plan, kinetic energy. Objectives. It wrote me 3 good objectives for this lesson. Look at this. So students will be able to construct graphical displays of data. Students will be able to construct, to illustrate relationship between kinetic energy and object, between kinetic energy and an object and its mass, speed effect. So they're all kind of the same objective in terms of the skill, but the topic changes here. Then it has a standard. Materials, I don't really need that. Then it has lesson activities, bell ringer. It gave me a bell ringer activity. Then it gives me direct instruction, individual learning, exit ticket ideas. Day 2, this is a weekly lesson plan here. Now, and then it has my accommodations. Now, you might have some more parameters you want to put in here. You might want to tweak it, tell it, and it'll continue to generate lesson plans and tweak it the way you want. Now I have my ChatGPT trained in a way that it helps me write the things I need to write so quickly. It's like my mind. I love it. Use this technique. We will link it up in the email that you are going to get from me when this is over. You're going to get an email and it's going to help you. Tammy's like, what? That's amazing. Yes, AI. Use it. Some people think it's cheating. That's what they thought about the calculator. It's not cheating. It's called using your tools. Where do you get the ChatGPT option? Just go to Google ChatGPT and it's like chatgpt.openai, I think, or something like that. Welcome weekends again. Yes, this will give you back your weekends. Yes. And in the course, I have some prompts for you too. Also, when there's going to be times when I add to the course, I'm going to think like, oh, I need to add this or whatever. Right now, it's great the way it is, but every once in a while, I add things to my courses. So if you buy it today and I add something, we'll shoot you an email. And let's just say it's 3 months in and you're already teaching, I might add a video that you like, and you might be like, oh, this is going to work for me or not. So remember, our courses, you get them forever. So if you want to continue to go back and rewatch it, you can. Okay. Where can I have access to this video? Well, we are going to download it for you and put it into an email. So you're going to get everything. And it's also on YouTube and Facebook and TikTok and wherever. Okay. Do I have the same features with the free ChatGPT version? Yes, you can use the free. I use the paid, but use the free. The free is 3.5 and the paid is 4.0. Okay. I'm going to email you everything. So don't worry. If you're like, oh my God, that ChatGPT is so cool, I'm going to email that to you. And remember, in the course, I have some prompts and I go through even more. I even show you how to use Raft writing strategy and how to build writing strategies in there. And all of that. I'm telling you, ChatGPT, like, you want writing prompts? You want math problems? Like, let me just show you real quick. I'm obsessed with it. Hang on. Let me just show you really quick. Okay. So here's Raft writing strategy for 6th grade. I asked it to build me some writing prompts. Look at this. There's the RAF strategy, instructions for students. Then I asked, oh, well, let me do some math problems here. Can you do me 5 math problems for this standard compute unit rates? And it gave me math problems. Now, these are pretty basic. You might have to go in and say, can you make them a little more X, Y? Math teachers will know, like, oh, can you make sure there's, 2 variables or whatever? Then I asked it to make me a rubric. So I had a grading rubric. Then it made me this awesome grading rubric. You can ask it, you can say, well, that rubric's too big. Can you make it more simple? Sure. And it'll simplify it. This is the tool for teachers. This is the tool for teachers. Okay. All right. So listen, I hope you guys have a great year. Let me show you really quick where you can get some more free resources. If you're on TikTok, I can't share my screen, but you're going to get the recording of this. If you're on TikTok and you want the recording and all the resources and the offer code, if you go to my website under webinars, free webinars, the first one is Start Your School Year Off with Success. And if you fill out that form, you'll get everything. You'll go into my email sequence. Okay. All right. So real quick, this is the book, Teach, a Survival Guide for New Educators. This goes with the course. Again, I can't give you both in the course because of the Kindle Unlimited, but this is a really great book. If you want to start there and get the course later, that is fine too. Then we have my Teach Survival course for new educators, $39.99, but you get the 20% off coupon. If you joined here, Teach 20 will get you 20% off. So go ahead and use that. Super cheap, and we're going to walk you through everything, talk about pedagogy, staying positive, all the way into specific instructional planning, how to write lesson plans, how to use Chat GPT and all of that. And then let's see, YouTube. I have a ton of videos on YouTube that will help you for all different types of things. I have these types of webinars, and I also have test strategy, teaching reading. If you're a reading teacher or a content area teacher and you want to teach reading, check out my teaching reading playlist. I have writing tutorials, everything like that. Then I'm also on TikTok, of course. I'm really enjoying using TikTok short form videos. It's been a lot of fun. So I'm there. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook. We share a lot of carousels on Instagram. If you like these, I love these. These are just amazing. My staff makes these. They look so good. I love them. So they're just fun to have on your phone and just swipe through and get a little education. That way, if you like printed resources, because I always try to do all the learning preferences. And then let's see. My website, of course. Let's go there. KathleenJasper.com. And if you want more free webinars for this webinar here that I'm talking about, or for other tests you might be taking, you can see that oh my God, that face is super big. Start Your School Year Off with Success is here today, but we have others. And I'm doing a 7001 coming up. There's a new test. There's a new elementary test. Louisiana, get ready. You have a new test. Missouri and Kansas have signed up for it. 7001. I'll be doing that free webinar in a couple of weeks. We have more free webinars coming up. So check back here and we will list them also, and you'll get emails and all of that. And then, of course, if you go under online courses, here's my Teach Survival Guide for New Educators. But also I have teacher interview course, school leadership interview course. This is how to interview. And I go through all of that. And then, of course, all of our test prep, study guides, everything. We got you. And we're working on more and more products constantly. I'm publishing a 5024 book. I just edited it today. Early education, 5024. People have been dying for it. Do you have one for FORT, Foundations of Reading Test? Use my Teaching Reading Elementary, the 5205 program. You will pass the FORT with that book. I promise. Well, I don't promise. I don't know what will happen, but many people have passed that test with my 5205. So the teaching reading, Terry, 5205, do the elementary teaching reading. Okay. I just got your course for 5003 practice. I'm learning things I did not understand before. Thank you so much. Yay. I just updated the 5003 to have all those math videos in there for you. I'm glad you're enjoying it. It took forever to record because I kept messing up. So, when you're trying to do math and you're like, I missed it, so I'm so glad you like it. It took a while for me to get that one going. What is this coupon code to sign up for your class? It's Teach20. Teach20. How much is the course if you already have your book? Ms. Williams, the book isn't included in the course, but if you've bought a book for another course, like if you bought a book for the PLT or something and you want the course, email us. We'll help you with that. But I can't include the book with the course because Amazon is the publisher. I would not have passed the 5205 without your course. Awesome, Tammy. Yeah, I love teaching reading. That's my jam. Okay, real quick, how do I get K-12 certified? What praxis do I need? Joanna, you have to go to your state Department of Education website to find that out. Every state is different in terms of what you need to get certified. I don't know. There are 50 states and there are 50 different pathways. So make sure you check that out. You can also go to the Praxis website under Praxis scores by state. You can also Google that and you can put in your state and it'll usually lead you in the right direction. But I highly recommend your state Department of Education website because that's going to lay it all out. You don't want to buy a bunch of material and then learn that you didn't need that test in the first place. Okay. Okay, I bought the 5205 and the 5025 and the 5621. Oh, Ms. Williams, if you want the courses in those, email us. We'll give you a discount for buying the physical book because they come with the digital book. All of my courses usually come with the digital book except for this one, the one I'm doing today. But if you want the online course for those and you can show us proof of purchase from Amazon, that's a screenshot of your purchase, we will give you a discount off of the online course if you'd like. All right. So do you have any support for Praxis Middle School Science? I don't have any middle school science yet. To write a science book is really a lot. I know I taught science. I should be writing a science book, but it's just a lot with the graphics and stuff. You need like all of these graphics. So it's on my list. But I would definitely check out my test strategy. And I do have a middle school science video on my YouTube channel. So check that out. Okay. What will your advice be to getting certified in Maryland if you haven't moved there yet? Again, you'd have to contact Maryland. Okay. There is also national certification. I know a colleague that has that. Yes, Diana, there is national certification, but you have to be careful. Just make sure wherever you're going accepts it. What is the name of the app? What is the name of the Talking Points app? I don't know. It's on my phone and I'm live right now. Just look it up in the App Store, AI Talking Points. Somebody gave it to me the other day. Google it. It's when you can talk into the phone and it'll summarize what you say and put it into bulleted points. I don't know the name of it because I just got it, but I'm obsessed. So check that out. I did not pass the practice core reading, but have ended up getting my teaching license in an alternative way. Can I retake the core reading test? Yes, Brandy, you can retake the test anytime you want. Okay. All right, guys, listen, we got to go because it is past. I was only supposed to be on here for an hour. I always stay extra. Dr. Jasper, I want to express my sincere gratitude for your Oh, thank you so much, Samantha. Your YouTube videos and complimentary webinars have been invaluable. You've passed. Okay. You've achieved success. Awesome, Samantha. So Samantha's used our free resources. I have free resources. I have paid resources. I'm just here to help you. If you don't want to buy the paid, use the free. We got lots of free stuff. A lot of people use the free stuff and pass, right? And if you want more, we have more. So go ahead and check out my website. Follow me on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube for sure. I'm not on Twitter because it's like a hellscape. I don't like to be there. But and good luck on your first year and try to use these talking points we talked about today. Get the course. I wish you well. Check back with me. We'll do another webinar. And I'm so glad that you were here. Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.